So I'm going to say something. Maybe, again, guys, I'm saying this thing. I keep repeating myself in this regard. It doesn't matter how I feel like personally about the issues. Everything I'm saying right now is I'm saying these things as a matter of fact in terms of how I feel or see them, right? For an example, personally, like myself, because of where I'm from and the things, my community, I understand the struggles in that sense. But South Africa right now cannot afford to do charity with Eskom. We just cannot afford to do charity with Eskom. It doesn't matter what happened, who took what money and stuff like that. That's irrelevant now. We are here. And it's just the truth of the matter. We cannot afford to do charity with Eskom. It's just as simple as that. If you cannot afford, you're not going to have electricity. If we want to progress as a country, right? You can argue whatever you want. Then what about poor people? I get it because I'm from there. I'm even feeling bad like I have to say these things given the hood that I'm from, because I know we never paid for electricity. Even in my home, we're not paying for electricity. People are preaching everywhere, bro. People couldn't afford paying for electricity. I remember even when my dad started preaching Eskom power at home for some time. This thing happened everywhere in the hood. Everywhere. There's no house that I know where people are paying for electricity. There isn't. Everywhere in the hood, right? But the truth of the matter is, despite how I feel, because we are poor, we're from this, despite that this is my community, the truth remains. South Africa is not in a space to play charity with Eskom. There's just no charity with power right now, at least. Now that's the reality. And it's irrelevant how I feel about it. Right? That's the reality. If you cannot afford to have electricity, I'm sorry, man, you're going to struggle though. The other means, you have to have a Prama stove. I don't know what you do, but other means, there will have to be other means. Try gas, try whatever. But South Africa cannot play charity with electricity. Now, but I want to deal with this thing. How did we get ourselves here to begin with? Now that we're even talking like this, how did we get here? That's the question. How did we get here? How did South Africa get to the point whereby we had about load shedding and we couldn't sustain anything? It's been rough in South Africa. I beg rough. In South Africa, I beg shubile poison. How did we get ourselves in that space? That's what I want to deal with. At least what we know, actually, as to how did we get ourselves here. Okay, I remember, for me, when I started understanding the issues with Eskom was with Mr. Brian Molefe, especially in the, what was that thing? The commission that we had, the Zondo commission that we had, when they were looking at the states capture commission with Zondo, when we were looking at that. This is when I started to pay attention to what were the issues, okay? Now, this is what Brian Molefe said, actually, hence we got here. So there's a company, and this company is Glencore, right? It was accused by Brian Molefe, who was like the CEO of Eskom. It was accused for selling a ton of coal for $70 to $80 per ton, right, to Eskom, while selling to overseas markets a ton of coal for how much? $40 to $50. So to Eskom, a ton of coal is $70 to $80, but to overseas market is $40 to $50. Glencore is a company in South Africa that is mining coal, by the way, that is doing this. Now the question is, how was Glencore allowed to do that? How did we get that with Glencore? How is it that this company was able to do that? Who was allowing Glencore to even be able to do that? So how were they doing this, right? Who was allowing them to do this? This is also according to the state capture information, by the way. I want to bring this back so we remind ourselves. So how were they allowed to do this? According again, which was alleged by Brian Molefe in state capture, was Ramaphosa, right, was alleged to have shares in Glencore. Some people were saying about 10%. Nobody knows. So this is just alleged, right? To have shares in Glencore while he was an overseer of Eskom as a deputy president. So Ramaphosa was a deputy president of the ANC, right, and the country. And he was an overseer of Eskom, right, the business in Eskom. Basically, the CEO of Eskom, which is Brian Molefe, and everyone in Eskom were answering to who? President Ramaphosa, right? Cool. So they are answering to President Ramaphosa as an overseer of Eskom, while he has shares in Glencore, and he is pushing, allegedly, by Brian Molefe during state capture. Ramaphosa was pushing for Glencore to be prioritized, the contract, this forever contract of 100 years and 99 years, to be signed and keep Glencore manipulating Eskom, basically, because with the prices. Because they're selling $70 to $80 to Eskom, while they're selling to $40 to $50 per ton to international markets. And Brian Molefe is saying this is happening as a result of people like President Ramaphosa, who was deputy president then, who is an overseer here in Eskom. Meanwhile, they have shares in these companies like Glencore while abusing Eskom. So these are the people. So that's how we were getting there. Now, in state capture again. So the propaganda that was being pushed at the time was when Brian Molefe, the CEO of Eskom, right, when he was running Eskom, was that he is working with is it Optimum, right? Let me check. Yeah, Optimum Coal Holdings, right, which is a company that was under Gupta's. So Optimum Holdings was a coal company that was being ran by Gupta's, right? So Brian Molefe was being alleged for having proximity to state capture and contributing to state capture with Eskom by working with Optimum Coal Holdings, right? Because it's a Gupta company. Correct. Now, but Brian Molefe was arguing the reason I end up having to work with these people of Optimum Coal Holdings is because Glencore is charging us way too much. On this side, we're going to get the price of 30 to 40 per ton, right? Whereas Glencore is charging 70 to 80, which is almost double the price for the same thing. But when they take these products to overseas markets, they don't charge that price. They're abusing us. Right? So that was the main big issue that led to the collapse of Eskom. I will never forget that. Because now I see Ramaphosa is a darling and what's not. I will never forget that. So this was the main issue. First strike. How this thing was happening. That's, kept rolling to get Eskom to be in shambles and crumbling and the country falling. I will never forget that. It's easy. Glencore, Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa is an overseer at Eskom, but in the same time, he has shares in Glencore. Brian Molefe tries to dodge Glencore because they are selling to Eskom 70 to 80 tons. $70 to $80 per ton, while they are selling $40 to $50 per ton to overseas markets. So when Brian tries to run away from Glencore and try to work with Optimum Coal Holdings, they blame him for state capture. They're saying he's associated with state capture because the Optimum Coal Holding is under the Guptas. By the way, Optimum Coal Holding, before it was bought in 2015 by the Guptas, it was also a company that was under Glencore. The same company with S. Ramaphosa also was alleged of owning percentage to it. So this idea of Eskom, I still remember. I will never forget that. Another big issue that we had, because in South Africa we are not patriotic to the country. So Eskom was in so much shambles that people were basically, people were getting themselves gigs in Eskom by breaking stuff that they know their companies are responsible for fixing in Eskom. So they will make sure that they make Eskom to be so dysfunctional that they keep coming back to fix things. So people were sabotaging Eskom. They were sabotaging things that they were fixing or responsible for in Eskom so that they can come back and fix. People were sabotaging the basically in terms of the mining industry. That's just a mafia thing. The mining things with the coal and whatnot, that's just mafias there. All mafias that side. So this issue, all these issues together with people sabotaging Eskom, breaking things so they can come back and fix it as their tenders, and people are playing the game with the coal and stuff like that, led to what we have now, or where we ended up going through as a country, which was the load shedding that we had so bad. Another thing, again, which I also blame myself as part of the community, we don't pay for electricity, guys. We don't. Say a preacher. Everywhere say a preacher. We don't pay for electricity. Right now, for me, when I'm being asked and I'm seeing everything that is happening with electricity and Eskom and what's not, bruh, the truth is, at this point, bruh, like, we cannot play charity with Eskom, bruh, and power. We can't. The country cannot afford it. We know that we cannot afford it because we've been there. We've seen that. We're from there. We saw what load shedding can do. We know what is load shedding now. So we cannot play with Eskom ever again. This is not something to play with now. We know what it will mean for a country to play with things such as Eskom. Such a big and important enterprise for the country, for the survival of the country's economy. Otherwise, we're going to go under. If we are not careful as South Africans, we are going to go under, bro. That's what's going to happen. We're going to go under. We know now. We cannot play like that. We know. So if you cannot afford, bro, I'm sorry, bro. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, bro. I guess they will have to come take all the things in the hood, bro. That's what will have to happen if we want to have a country, though. I mean, if we do not want to have a country and we're not interested, we can keep going, preach, and do whatever this we do, but we're going to go back. And there's not going to be a way forward for some people. While some people make money, they're going to find ways. I know I'm going to be one of the people who find ways. One way or the other, my family will have electricity. The poor of the poor, though, they won't. They will not afford to find new means to move when things start happening. They're not going to be able to. And that's just the truth of the matter. We can decide how we want to deal with that as a country. We can decide that. If we want to have a country or we don't want to have a country in regards to Eskom. We know how we ended here. Now, with that being said, I want to move from this saga of Eskom